Hello, I'm Alice. I was born and raised in a bustling city, but that interesting life ended when I followed my husband to the countryside where he grew up to build a small family. We have overcome many difficulties together in life. I was a key employee of the company when I was a young girl. At that time, Henry and I had only been together for a year. Although we graduated from a prestigious university together, I quickly achieved more success than him. I still remember him being the guy who loved me no matter what. He always looked at me with admiring eyes because at that time I was not only beautiful but also the head of an international company, and he was still a normal employee of a company that was not so successful. My career was on the rise when I was pregnant with Henry's son. It was an unintended affair because I wasn't ready to be a mother, but if it was determined by God, then I had to accept. I told Henry about being pregnant. He was so happy. His genuine smile made me feel comforted because I found a good man for the rest of my life. He was over the moon and quickly took me home to introduce to his family. Henry's family also welcomed me. A few months later, we got married. The moment I walked along the aisle with this man I loved, I shed tears of joy and happiness. But maybe I was wrong. My feelings have fooled me. Everything after the wedding was a series of problems that I never thought of. It is hard to believe that the happiness of being married to Henry will be the thing that I regret most for the rest of my life. After only a few short weeks of only us two being together, his family wanted me to quit my job and move back to his hometown. Quitting the job I've been doing for years, if I ever made the choice to give up, would be something I couldn't bear. I looked at Henry hopelessly for help, begging him to say something to support my wish to stay in this promising land. But no. He coldly decided that he would go back to his hometown and find a job. He said that he had no prospects here, so he wanted me to sympathize with him and accept that request. When I thought of the baby in my tummy that was only a few months old but already had to deal with the future of family separation, I really couldn't do anything different. I had to give up my career. I thought that would be enough. I would find another job in that new place in no time because I can adapt very quickly to the new environment. But Henry's family was getting more and more outrageous. They asked me to be more family-oriented. I was asked to do housework and take better care of their son, Henry. They forbade me to work because they believed that only men should play the role of the breadwinner in the family. I really couldn't believe what I was going through. I always found his family open and generous. Now they're like strangers, harsh and fastidious. Finally, the day of the birth of our first child has arrived. Since Henry's family knew that I was pregnant, they did not dare to speak harshly to me. But none of them helped take me to the ultrasound to check the situation of the baby either. They always kept me inside the house and decided that the baby would be a boy. Henry also changed. He started working late at night. He always had a reason to refuse to drive me to the pregnancy check. At that time, I was very lonely. No cars, no relatives. The distance to the hospital was very remote. I had to take care of me and the baby in my tummy for 9 months under that condition. His mother often bought clothes and toys for the baby boy about to be born. I didn't know how to describe the feeling at that time, but it was crazy for them to keep saying that the baby was going to be a boy without letting me go to the hospital for a gender test. Where did they get the information and make sure it was a boy? I also did not care because Henry's mother always refused to listen to my opinion. The day I gave birth to my baby, Henry wasn't there. His family drove me to the hospital, and I had to fight the pain alone for 4 hours in the delivery room. By the time the baby was born, that dear cry made me happy. Thank God for bringing this little angel to my life. It was a cute girl with bright, big, round eyes. I named her Doris. When Doris was put in my arms, his family came to see the situation. Their faces were disappointed. They blamed me for fooling them that the baby was going to be a boy. Dear God, I didn't know what to say because they were so unreasonable. They were lying to themselves that it was a boy while I did not say or wish anything. During the time of the pregnancy, I was lonely and empty. Until Doris was born, my husband still did not visit. A few days later, he came to hug his daughter, told me a few superficial words, and became busy with work again. My man of the past had changed. He was no longer the same man who was willing to be with me in difficult times. Henry had changed. The day I was discharged from the hospital, there was no one to pick me up. I sadly took a taxi to go back to that strange house. Just entering the house, about to knock on his mother's door to say hello, I overheard a conversation between Henry and his mother. His mother said I was a dangerous woman. She blamed me for deceiving her about the fact of the baby's gender. She also made up that I argued with her, acted arrogant to her, and even regularly called some other man behind my husband's back. I was shocked, but still tried to behave at that moment. The anger I was holding back for so long could explode at that moment. I decided to exit the scene and go to the bedroom to take care of my little angel instead. When Henry finished talking to his mother, he entered the room. He cursed me for being a terrible woman, daring to have a love affair with other men behind his back. He also warned me not to bully his mother because if he had to choose, he would rather abandon me and the baby, but never give up his family. I sobbed. No matter how hard I tried to explain, he wouldn't want to believe me. He would believe his mother's lies rather than the woman that had given up all her fame and fortune to be close to him. After that argument, we had completely cracked. He didn't bother to go home to sleep at night anymore. It all went on like a drama series you could see on TV until I received an invitation from a famous company in the city where I used to live. They gave me a job offer willing to pay double the normal salary and allowing me to visit my family whenever I want. Of course, I was extremely interested. It had been many years since I felt the enthusiasm in me. I knew my chance had come, and without hesitation, I called Henry to come home to announce this good news. After hearing my talk about the return to my career path, Henry interrupted me. He made me refuse that opportunity and settle down to be a good housewife. He wanted to take care of our children in this remote countryside. He mentioned something so great and noble of a father that I'd never seen from him once. That day, he suddenly became so interested in Doris, and it surprised me. Henry didn't want the baby to be raised in a noisy city. He wanted to raise Doris with his money. He also worried that his mother would have no one to rely on. He said I had to stay here and I was not allowed to leave her. My heart was heavy. My dream career was fading again, and I reluctantly gave up because he threatened to divorce me. Marriage to me has always been important, and I couldn't abandon my family because of this. When Doris was 10 years old, Henry suddenly returned home in a good mood. He informed the whole family that he would move to work in a city far away from where we lived. He said they invited him to work for a famous company. I asked him, "What about me and Doris?" In the past, he clearly said that he wanted her to live here for healthy development. He also said he could not leave his family, but now he immediately agreed to move without hesitation. His family laughed at me after hearing me, and then he laughed out loud too. They said I was such a fool. It turned out that from the beginning until that moment, his family had always been tricking me. I didn't expect to be pregnant, but it was all in Henry's plan. He acted happy when hearing the news that I was pregnant, not because of the baby, but because he was finally able to grasp my weaknesses to ruin my career. Ever since loving me, he'd been jealous of my accomplishments. He was jealous of so many successful men around me. He selfishly took me home to control me, forcing me to quit my job to satisfy his jealousy. His parents were outdated people. The day we decided to get married, they went to see a fortune teller. The fortune teller said that if I had a son, Henry would soon have fame and fortune, but in case I gave birth to a daughter, he would live in misery and hardship. The fortune teller gave my parents some powder, telling them to make me drink it. He affirmed that if I drink that thing regularly, I will have a son. As a result, his family tricked me into drinking the powder and lying to themselves that I would soon give birth to a boy. In the end, when it didn't turn out as their expectation, it was me to be blamed. Because I had a daughter which would affect their son's career, they had allowed and even encouraged him to sleep with other women. Henry also confessed that he had slept with many women since then. He had children with another woman too. His family teamed up to kick me out of this house. I completely collapsed, hugging Doris and crying in sadness. I cherished this marriage. I sacrificed even my promising career to maintain our happiness. He only loved himself and did what was beneficial to him. He would trade anything to satisfy him. Who dared to surpass him, he would attempt to overthrow. I agreed to divorce Henry and took Doris to the city where I used to live to start my life over again. My career was once again promoted. I could afford to give my daughter the best life I could afford. 2 years later, Henry came back to see me, looking very pathetic. I didn't know what he had been through for the past 2 years. He sincerely apologized and begged for my forgiveness, but my heart has been completely frozen. Should I forget everything that had happened and forgive him, guys? Let me know what you think about this story.